Hello, everyone. After a little break, we're just going to do a recap of what we've been talking about of Operation Stone Soup, partly to introduce it to Michael, who's just joined us, and then be able to get his fresh feedback, but also partly just so that Michael has. Anyway, enough of that. What is it? So it is called Operation Stone Soup, and just like the story Stone Soup, it's about feeding everyone. And it's about community coming together in a radically inclusive, empowering way and meeting the most basic of recurring human needs, which is the need for, food and water and, followed by others. But food and water are the biggies. So how do we do it? We start in Brooklyn, and there we start with a press conference that announces to the world Operation Stone Soup and the Brooklyn Singularity, which means we're starting with an intense focus on Brooklyn because we have to start somewhere, right? And between indoor hydroponics, community gardens, community permaculture, windowsill gardens, rooftop gardens, all the above. We grow as much food inside of Brooklyn as we possibly can. But, the reality is Brooklyn's a pretty densely populated place. So we'll certainly need to start off bringing food from outside. That'll diminish over time. I don't think it'll ever go to zero. And we optimize it as a network as a whole, right? We redefine food networks, which are currently collapsing, right? And we avert the very real risk, not just risk, but reality of malnutrition and outright hunger. And the impacts on the immune system that this causes, the impacts on forcing people out of their homes in search of food or in search of money or in search of something so that they can buy food. So it's actually a vehicle for eradicating hunger and malnutrition and ending pandemics generally going forward. And that provides us a really awesome basis for health and for including mental health, including collective mental health and collective intelligence. In fact, it's going to require tremendous collective intelligence to take this worldwide. And it'll be a collective intelligence brought together around the most noble and simple of purposes, most noble and most basic of purposes. Feed everyone, right? And we start in Brooklyn, and we give it a cool name like Brooklyn Eats, right? Brooklyn Eats would be the food part of the Brooklyn Singularity. The Brooklyn Singularity is sort of a code name because the thing is, it'll attract the attention. With the press conference, it'll attract the attention of the entire world. And the fact that it's whole food, plant-based diets, which are immune boosting, et cetera, and this is between that and people staying home and the immune and the elimination of wet markets and slaughterhouses and all that, we basically take pandemics off the table going forward. That's huge, right? And it also puts humanity in a place of unity, of togetherness, right? Take any peoples, groups that have issues, bring them together and give them and have them whip out a big meal for everybody. And it gets them talking. You don't even have to talk about the thing. You just get together and just start talking. Talk about baseball if you want, right? But this is going to bring humanity together and just create a whole new paradigm for humanity and what's possible. And then from this place of empowerment, including being able to stay home and participate in these kind of meetings, participate in the collective intelligence, right? That will all evolve into collective superintelligence, which will empower us to do planetary scale SRM and solve the rest of our problems. And that's it. We start with a press conference in Brooklyn. At the end of the press conference, we invite the media to come downstairs with us, and there'll be like a fleet of at least 10 trucks full of food, boxed up, ready to go, taking the food to the people. And the media will be encouraged to follow the trucks, right? Respecting appropriate guidelines of safety, et cetera. And Sarah, go for it.
I just have a question about Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York.
Yes.
And his brother, Chris, who works for, I guess he works for CNN. I'm sure you're going to invite him, but it seems like because he's sort of become the hero of this COVID stuff, maybe he would be there at the press conference.
Oh, we're going to invite everyone. Absolutely. That's a great example. And the president of Brooklyn, the borough president of Brooklyn, is vegan and has written a book about how veganism transformed his health, et cetera, et cetera. He used to be diabetic. This is a former police officer in Brooklyn. Anyway, community hero, community leader, vegan. Oh my goodness. The leadership is just going to come out of the woodwork to support this. And so it's simply going to become the biggest, most positive story on earth, because it's fundamentally a story of the solution, not just to pandemics, not just to hunger, but planetary overheating. Why? This is going to empower us to do SRM. And we say so at the press conference. We make no secret of our large-scale intentions of collective superintelligence empowering us to do planetary scale SRM. Growing out of this. We make no secret of that. Just like we make no secret of the fact that it's 100% plant-based. And we talk about why. No, we have a team of doctors talk about why, led by Dr. Priya. Anyway, I'm complete on that brief little summary. If there's anything anyone wants to add or any questions, any feedback, go for it. And if you want me to pause recording, I'm happy to do that. I'm open. Hey, Michael, I see your lips moving, but I don't hear you, like the Pink Floyd song goes. I'm going to pause. Yes, Michael, go ahead.
Okay, so we're on a new recording now?
No, we're continuing the recording from a minute ago. I just paused so that we could sort out the technicals.
I see. I just said, don't forget your mushrooms in that whole food plant-based diet.
That's it. Don't forget the mushrooms, because mushrooms technically are in a class by themselves, the fungi family or whatever, so they're technically not plants. So plant-based, plant and shroom-based. How about that?
Yeah, fungus-based.
Fungus-based.
Really
yeah. I love it. Plant and fungus-based diet. Love it. Love it. Love it.
We might want to leave out the fungus. It sounds gross.
Yeah, might be some marketing issues there.
Yeah, we'll work on precise naming. Let's not worry about that right now. All right.
Just don't call them fun guys. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the recap. Any other questions, comments, or are we complete?
How's it going to be funded?
Great question, Nancy. So the ideal would that it be 100% donations, right? And and an important thing I want to say about that is one of the most important lessons from the Stone Soup story is that you don't need to have everything lined up in advance before you press go, before you start the thing, right? So those three soldiers in Stone Soup, they just started with a big kettle full of water and a stone at the bottom and said, all right, this is a go, right? And that's very much the spirit. So, what I'm saying is we need 10 full trucks of food to start, right? Because once we kick off that story, the thing is, what the media is going to capture is the fleet of 10 trucks driving off, and they're going to follow trucks, and they're going to watch as people cry as we deliver them food and say, here you are, sister. Here you are, brother. Eat up, right? It's on us. Because what the media is going to focus on is those 10 trucks and all those deliveries and all those little stories and moments that come popping out of that, which is going to be like a popcorn machine, okay? What they're not going to focus on is the next 1,000 trucks that we don't have yet. You follow me? And by the time this story goes viral, the story is out. They're feeding everyone in Brooklyn, and people are coming in to support so fast that our Wells Fargo bank, or no, not Wells Fargo, but one of the compassionate credit unions that's vegan and that's all the right stuff, it's going to break the capacity of the bank account to receive that much money so quickly. It's going to come pouring in so fast. So we'll have no problem with donations of money, but preferably we ultimately take this ideally to a non-money system, right? Because of the fact that money is a poison, right? I drink alcohol and it's a poison, right? I'm just saying, let's not bring alcohol to the party, right? So that's all I really want to say about that. So, I mean, we can imagine utopian scenarios, and why not? Where, you know, landowners are saying, look, I'm just donating the use of my land to support the Food Network, right? And it sounds like a television network. And, you know, volunteers welcome to do the planting, to do the, you know, the weeding, to do the gardening, to do the harvesting, et cetera, right? It could all be volunteer based and donation based. Literally, oil companies could be donating the diesel to power the trucks. Mechanics could be donating their time to give maintenance to those trucks. It could be 100% volunteer and donations in kind and whatnot. So that's my short answer. I hope, did I answer all your questions, Nancy, or do you have more?
I'm thinking it sounds really good in theory, but I don't know that the dream is yet rooted in. I don't know if I think it's a fabulous idea, but you don't want to go in completely blind, you know, and I don't know. I think that what came to mind is there's another group with the Vegan World 2026. It's a new economy, and you know, it's a I can't write. It's like a it's not based necessarily on money, but it's on doing good things. So maybe people who volunteer, they would also get food as well. You know, I could see people volunteering and getting food as well, and then having some kind of system where it's a giving system. You know what I mean? Instead of giving then getting, it's just like everybody gives to the next person, give to the next person, give to the next person. Things like you know, people that own some of these big apartment buildings where a lot of people maybe who are underserved live, somehow a way for maybe the owners of that building to benefit from it somehow. I don't know, because they have bills to pay too, you know. So somehow getting the system of things that we already have, but getting it to be a giving system and not waiting for somebody to have to pay you for it, because you know your needs are going to be met. If everybody's needs are automatically met, then, you know, like if I go teach a class and then somehow through that teaching class some food comes back to me, or I go do something else for the community and the community somehow my electricity can be supplied to me. Or you see what I'm saying? I'm just kind of speaking off the top of my head, but then I could see something like that working. But assuming a lot of people are going to volunteer, I don't, you know, I've done events where I've held volunteers, and I'll tell you one thing: half of them don't show, and then you got a lot of people get sick, or they can't do it, or they change their mind, or something else comes along. I mean, volunteer based strictly for a short term thing for maybe a day, yeah, but you're talking about a whole program extending over time, and you needing on the normal. You need resources, you need money. We still need money. So I'd like to see something more solid in place instead of assuming, you know, assuming the best. It's like you have to also be prepared for the worst too. Always hope for the best and plan for the best, but say, well, what's going to happen if, you know, in the case, because we really want it to work. Thank you.
Beautiful. No, really good feedback, Nancy. And number one, there are a couple of different apps that are, you know, looking to be a part that will most likely be a part of this. Both Silish's new K-Mama app and Arvin's and Nandini's app that they've been working on for a while. And probably lots of apps and lots of technologies will ultimately become a part of this. You know, in terms of the volunteers needed, what I'm counting on is this becoming so popular that volunteers just start coming out of the woodwork, not just within Brooklyn, but within all 5 boroughs going to Brooklyn, right? Think of the power of that. And then people coming from Jersey and Connecticut and wherever, and people coming from out of, further out of state, and, coming to be a part of this new thing, this new solution, this new revolution, right? And there will be, property owners who will say, hey, I can put up 10 volunteers. That's my contribution, right? And, let's go, right? So I think I'm counting on this being an exponential thing, right? And what I'm committing to is, along with others who are game, is we commit to inviting the media to coming to meeting us at that spot every single day thereafter. So no matter what happened, did not enough donations come in, or donations came but there's no volunteers, or whatever happens, we're just like telling the story. This becomes, I'm sure most of you have probably heard of that reality TV series Cake Boss, based in, I think that one's based in New Jersey, but it's, it's basically New York City metropolitan area. Well, this is going to be Food Boss of Brooklyn, right? and I nominate Jackie to be Food Boss or Food Mama of Brooklyn. So Food Box, yes, Food Box is definitely a good name. I like it. Thank you. And so anyway, bottom line, I think we're going a bit over time. I didn't want to cut this far into Michael's time. But anyway, I think we've gotten off to a really good start, and that was my intention here. So with that, if anyone has any final quick comments, please speak up. I'll go on mute.
Well, I'll just say like that, just to finish up on that part, that subject, I'm just going to say something like that is going to take a vast amount of planning in structuring it, because at least a small percentage of each of those facets that will be needed to get something like that scheme going. At least a small element of each of those facets would have to be organized to show that it can be done, because you have to show by example. So, like, you can't just show up at the press and say, here's an idea, go fix it. You have to show it can be done. So, there's a lot of organization. That's what I'm saying, like, before you can actually have the press conference. That's my opinion anyway.
Oh, totally. No, there's gobs of planning that needs to be done. Therefore, invite the best people to the block party, and let's build out the collective intelligence. The Crows endorse the idea. Let's build out the collective intelligence around this so we can get it all planned out to the nth degree. What are we waiting for, right? Time is passing, ice is melting, people are dying, virus is spreading, animals are being slaughtered and tortured, and, right? So chop, this is it. And by the way, take it one step previous to this is the conversation about how do we save life on Earth. Operation Stone Soup is but one of many, what I'm calling hyper solutions, that will be born out of the conversation. The first step then is build the conversation, and that's what we're doing right here. We're building the conversation. How do we save life on Earth? That's the name of the conversation. How do we save life on Earth? Interpret that however you want, but chop, we got to do it. Right? We got to stop philosophizing and start doing, right? And it starts in Brooklyn very soon. How soon? As soon as Nancy says she's impressed, because she's a taskmaster, and she's going to be there. She's going to drive up, right? So she'll be there, keeping us on track.
There's things like that happening in Baltimore on smaller scales, but there's people that give away food in Baltimore all the time, every week. And there's
Hey, listen, there were
a place that's doing that now. I donated some money, and the Welfare World, they ended up raising $10,000 to feed hungry families in Baltimore recently, which probably was like, a week's worth. But I mean, it's already happening, but it does take planning and person power. It's going to take some funding. You have to, one way you do is you get sponsors. It's like the media advertises for it, but we can advertise too, and sponsors will give money knowing that they're going to get their, advertisement. And seen as the good neighbors, you could call it like a good neighbor sponsorship program. I like that, good neighbor sponsorship program.
I love it.
And that's how you make some money for that, and things like
No, listen, Brooklyn businesses up the kazoo are going to sponsor this. To have their name associated with it. And as far as look, people have been donating food to other folks for freaking eons.
Yeah.
But just like people were selling weed long before I was born, but that didn't stop me from becoming the Bill Gates of Bud, right? Because I got out there and did it in a way that was unique.
Was that you on that dope magazine?
That's me.
Oh, let's see it again.
I used to be young and handsome.
Oh my
Nancy.
God, that's you.
That's
Wow.
me. And that's my great grandfather Diego Pellicer, who was the largest grower of cannabis in the world, of hemp, actually scientifically cannabis, in the world in the Victorian era. So I built a brand of cannabis based on his legacy, committing 100% of my share of the profits to ending hunger.
Wow.
And so the media came because that was a hell of a story. Here's this former Microsoft executive. Now he's the Bill Gates of Bud. And this Taiwanese anime news company made an anime character of me trying to sell weed to teenagers or something. Anyway.
What was your grandfather's name again?
Pardon me?
What was your grandfather's name again?
Oh, great-grandfather, Diego Pellicer. Diego Pellicer.
Yeah.
You can Google it. Uh-huh.
And you said that you how did you say it? You said that, is my audio coming through okay?
Yeah, just fine, Michael. Go ahead.
Okay. You said you had somehow continued his legacy. How did you put it?
Well, since he was the largest grower of hemp in the world in the Victorian era, I built a brand based on his legacy.
Yeah. Based
on his story.
Mm-hmm.
He was supplying the Spanish Armada with hemp rope during the Spanish-American War. Anyway, Fox News invited me back to New York. That was a great interview. This is all up on the web. Deborah Borchardt of The Street interviewed me, and I announced the bong era of legalized cannabis on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until I invited my old friend, former Mexican President Vicente Fox, that the whole thing just exploded media-wise, right? And we forced the hand of the Obama administration. It's a whole story. And I've shared excerpts of the press conference, which we did right before this interview with Wolf Blitzer, that really kicked the whole thing off. But my point is, yes, food programs have been going on for eons, and they're going on now and all that. But no one has done the press conference. This was the press conference. You can watch the full hour and a half of it with all the Q&A and everything afterwards. But that changed the course of history as regards cannabis. And we just went on from there on an international tour that ended up in Mexico for a 3-day international symposium. The Uruguayans were there, and within a few months, they became the first country to legalize cannabis. So this is what I'm talking about. We're going to be able to do this process to the topics of food and ending pandemics, including the present one. Bam, 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 bam. And cooling the planet through solar radiation management. I mean, it's just going to be an explosion, just like what this one was. See, listen, when the cannabis thing came to the state of Washington, it was just about cannabis in Washington. When President Vicente Fox came from Mexico, it became about international drug cartels and 80,000 dead kids in Mexico, right? Likewise, when we come to Brooklyn, it ain't just going to be about feeding people in Brooklyn. It's going to be about feeding the world, cooling the planet, ending pandemics. Simple as that.
This is a good segue.
All right. Well, let's pause that.
Changing history.
That's it. All right. Let me pause that.